The solution-focused approach is action-oriented. The narrative therapy approach seeks our values and beliefs and stories that young people would rather be described as. Together, the discourse changes, which could result in more student engagement and less violence. And since I really enjoyed putting the two models, solution-focused and narrative therapy, together, I loved this book. It is full of dialogue and case studies about how we ask questions to kids who are down and out, in trouble, disrespectful, not engaged, and bring out something called their wonderfulnesses. I know, crazy word, huh? Here's an adaptation of the wonderful interview for school situations. Get to know young people by asking them this. What do you wish your teacher knew about you? What else? And this is for the kid who comes into your office or your practice and they're in trouble at school. And they're expecting to hear from another adult all the things that are wrong with them. And instead, you say, what do you wish your teacher knew about you? What else? What would you begin doing on a small scale just for today to show your teacher that side of you? What else would you do? Now, some kids will say, I don't know. And that's honestly, I think they say, I don't know to these questions because they've never been asked a question like this. Rarely are students asked, what kind of side do you think you should show your teacher this afternoon when you go into chemistry class? Or I wonder what you might show your teacher on the playground today when you're out with the same group of boys you were yesterday, only this time you're not in trouble. What would you be doing? Takes them to a whole new place. And that's fine. It may take a little bit of time to get them to answer. But what we're doing here, again, is creating, and you all know this, the preferred futures of that student, to where they can begin to imagine a miracle day. What would your classmates notice about you? What else? What difference might it make to you someday after you have a better day and your teacher notices you differently? Who would be the most pleased? One student said, my teacher would be. Okay, who else? Oh, my mom would be. Really, what difference would it make for your mom to be pleased? And one kid said, she wouldn't be called so many times from the school. Sometimes she has to come pick me up. Wow, so she wouldn't have to get calls from school, wouldn't have to pick you up. I wonder what difference that would make for her. I asked a mom that question once when I was talking to her son, a sophomore in high school, in my office. What difference would it make to you? You're not getting called. She said, I could actually do my job and not worry. The kid had no idea that calls like that kept his mom from being good at her job. It's good for kids to know what it would mean to someone for them to do well. So you keep asking, what else? Who else would be pleased? I'm going to show a video of a young man, Philip, age 9. He went to school one day a couple of years ago, and a girl who had irritated him constantly by throwing books down loud whenever she was angry at him because she just didn't like him. He didn't do anything to her. She just didn't like him. When she was upset with the assignment, couldn't do it, and he said, I can't help you, she threw her books down so loud. It really upset him too many times. Finally, one day he looked up at her and said, you know what? I'm sick of you doing this. Tonight, I'm going to go home, get my dad's gun, come back to school tomorrow, kill you, and I'll kill myself too. Well, that was a threat. And so he was suspended. He had to go get psychiatric care and get an assessment. I admit, as a person who is very passionate about stopping school shootings, that when I heard about this young person, age 9, that I had my own assumptions in my head. And then I saw him walk down the hallway. And I knew there was much more to this young person than just a kid who wanted to threaten someone's life. Although that's always important to take very seriously. So I will start and stop this on occasion as I show you this video just to illustrate what went on that day. Now this is my intern, my school intern over here. And he's going to be asking Dad about what are the wonderfulnesses about your son. Now I want you to look at Philip. He's got the hoodie on. He looks pretty sad. He doesn't want to be there. He's probably waiting to hear the same thing he's heard for the past couple of weeks about the incident and to see if he's going to get more criticism or whatever it was he was getting, but he's not going to get that in this room.
Based on it's our third or fourth time that we've gathered.
Yes.
And from what I see it, Philip, I was kind of wanting to see from your words so he could hear it. But what are some of the wonderfulnesses that you see in him at home? Because when he was Steve, you know, what a great child, young man he is.
This was Philip's first time to ever get in trouble at school. And that's really important information, isn't it? He's in fourth grade, age 9, never been in trouble. Not one time had dad ever been called. So dad was truly surprised when this happened. And so assumption might be the school, what's going on here as far as the quality of child he is. Apparently he's a good kid. And when I saw him walk down the hallway and look up at me and smile at me and say hello, I just could not picture him being a violent person. So we're off to see what are some wonderfulnesses that dad has noticed about him at home.
And I'm going to go from there with our discussion.
And you know what is, I tell him all the time what I like about him and what he's even taught me from kid to adult. And I tell him, what's the thing I tell him? Tell you what you teach me.
So Philip's teaching you stuff, Dad? Oh my gosh. Do you guys mind if I write these things down?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm going to give it to you in a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So.
You just talked about it the other day too. What you teach me?
Oh yeah, to what, just have fun.
He told me, and again, this is edited, that he loved playing the game Sonic. And if you know Sonic, Sonic's the hedgehog, and Sonic runs very fast. A lot of times when I talk with kids, I'd like to ask them what kind of games they play and ask if we could even make a metaphor out of one of the characters. And that usually helps them relate to me pretty well. Notice too that the hoodie just came off, talking about things that he knows about. And when I'm asking him about the games he likes to watch, he's much more engaged. So I'm asking more about Sonic.
You're called Knuckles, and you are this kid that Dad talked about, who does all these things so well. And you go into school and you begin to someday in the future, and you show off Knuckles.
Now, apparently in Sonic, there is another character called Knuckles, and Knuckles apparently is a good guy. And so I'm asking him to think about if he were to go to school and he was, quote, Knuckles, and showing off those good attributes that Knuckles had, in the same way that Dad says he has these good attributes at home, what might he do? Obviously, I'm searching for exceptions and abilities. And so if I can find out what he does well at home with sisters and dad and mom, I'm going to see if I can add those to his expertise when he goes to school.
And maybe there's somebody who's all that they're all past, they're not paying attention to much like it. What did you do? What we noticed Knuckles doing? This kid that your dad described on the day. It would be different than the way things were the past few weeks. Well, first off,
In other words, if you took Knuckles to school, how might what happened 2 weeks ago have been different?
tell them that I doesn't look like I'm paying attention, but I would definitely tell you that.
So he said he would tell his classmates, and it may not look like he's paying attention, but he is, in an effort to get them to quiet down and give him a little space.
What should be going on that your teachers would notice about you? They would tell them Knuckles is here today. Maybe if the class got a little out, maybe a little unruly or something, or loud or something. It's really though, it's only like a few kids, and it's still the same kids every time. Yeah. Yeah, so what if those kids are bugging you or just making noises and you're trying to work? What Knuckles do? I would like pretend that they're my sisters.
That was amazing that he would say, I'd pretend that they're my sisters.
I like pretend that they're my sisters
Which,
and just get one.
I wonder if he would be pleased about that when you did that. He'd be the most pleased that you did something like that.
My teacher.
Did he
For
hear it?
sure.
Yeah.
She doesn't like when it happens.
So this is just an example of a different kind of conversation to have with a young person who had made a violent threat. And again, we're not negating the fact that the threat should not be addressed and have the consequence. Naturally, it should. But I think it's what we do afterwards that we're really missing the boat on in schools. For example, when kids get suspended, like Philip, chances are that when they go back to school in 2 weeks or however long the suspension is, they're going to be greeted often by an administrator who's not happy to see them and teachers who are not happy to see them. And the kid feels that discourse and usually goes on to continue to act out. What I think instead would be much more helpful, at least when I've asked kids about it, they've agreed with me, is that they arrive back at the school. They're greeted by the administrator who says, "Welcome back. Let's go talk about how you can stay here and not be suspended anymore. I'm interested in getting to know you." That doesn't take a whole lot of time. And then they go into the office and they start talking and they get to know each other a little bit more. Again, he's going to be watched. But I also like for the parent to go back with the student and I give them an idea of making sure the administrator knows this, saying to the administrator, Philip has been talking to a counselor and he wants to show you the kind of kid he really is. Would you mind watching out for those things he does that tells you he's not a kid who wants to kill someone. He's a kid who really wants just to study and have friends. Would you mind just watching? Changing the mindset of an administrator by doing something like that while going ahead and cooperating with the obvious consequence is very important. Because again, what happens to a lot of kids, according to the research I've read, is they're coming back to school after many suspensions. People don't want them to be there. Often there's a retaliation that happens between teachers and students who teachers don't want the kids in the classroom. They give them the evil eye when they walk in, mostly because they don't know what else to do. But what if those teachers too, when the kids came back into their classroom, they again walked up to the student and said, "Welcome back. Let's talk about how we can make things work. Let me know what I could do as your teacher to help you." Now, a lot of times these kids are not going to know what to say, and they'll probably say, "I don't know. I don't know." But we don't stop there, and we don't give up, and we don't walk away saying, "Oh, they don't care." No, 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 no. Instead, we go, "It's okay. I can understand you wouldn't know, but would you think about it? And I'll talk to you again after class, and maybe even tomorrow. I want us to find a way to work together." That's the first big step toward disengaging that kid from feeling badly about himself to engaging them as a class member, as somebody who's important, who feels important.